Well, of course, it is 19 minutes past the hour. The Senate has taken a break. They will be back exactly at 2:30 p.m. Today, it is the final day when, after hearing both sides and in the afternoon session, hearing the second in command, given that he doesn't have any other witnesses, he is his sole witness. Once that is concluded, the senators will debate and then finally render their verdict on the political career of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. We have that and so much more in the next few hours so until the senators resume for their afternoon session. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim, and of course we'll be bringing you this and other stories that are making headlines at this hour. And of course we want to start on the proceedings that started yesterday on the floor of the House. That was on Wednesday in the first instance, where the mover of the motion, that is Mwenge Mutuse, took to the stands, and of course he was tasked to explain why he leveled the 11 charges against the second in command. We start on that before we go to the reactions of Kenyans across the country.
Can you tell the Senate in very condensed summary what is the grievance you have raised against His Excellency the Deputy President?
What we are saying is that the Deputy President in the last 2 years has been in various places within the Republic of Kenya and has been publicizing a notion that Kenya is a company that is owned by shareholders, and only those who have shares in the company called Kenya, according to him, will benefit in terms of development and service delivery from the Republic.
Mr. Speaker, if you look at volume 4 from the pages that I indicated, right from page 113, it shows what flight it took, at what time, a British Airways flight on the 16th, and arrived in London on the 17th. The only business that comes out from that document and his documents is that he got a will signed.
You will peruse the motion before you with a view to finding which ground in that motion is sought to be established by these allegations around what may or may not have happened around the time the late Nderitu Gachagua died. You will find absolutely no ground supported by those allegations. Let me disclose here. It is designed to whip your emotions. It has no other purpose.
So, Honorable Mutuse, what do you have to tell the Senate of the fact a company that was in arrears for 4 years, 35 million, it is in distress, it's not in operation, the Deputy President shows interest, and suddenly it is able to pay these arrears of that 5 million?
The Deputy President must be magical. Associating with the Deputy President must be very magical, because you have not operated for over 4 years, you are in debt, you have not been able to service that debt for 4 years, but you have just interacted with him for a month and you pay your debt overnight.
It is your desire for these senators to impeach this Deputy President on an allegation that he has, through his proxies, taken control of a cooperative society we don't know, isn't it?
I have said I leave that to their decision.
Is it your desire? Is that what you desire? You want some outcome from this process, you as the mover of this motion. Is that what you want of this motion?
What do you understand when I say I leave it to their decision?
You have no right to ask me any question.
Just say yes or no. We move on. We make progress.
Thank you. My apologies. Yes.
Do you have anything wrong with that call for empathy?
I have a problem with the forum.
No, you're answering your own question. I'm asking whether you have a problem with the call for empathy.
My allegation is that he had forum.
I've asked whether you have a problem with his call for empathy. Please answer my question.
He would have said as much in cabinet.
Please answer my question. Do you have a problem with a call for empathy?
I have no problem with the call for empathy other than...
Let me move to the next question. Grand Bypass Apartments Limited. What problem do you have with it?
We do not have a problem with it.
This company that you have listed, you have no problem with it?
We do not have a problem with it.
But you have put it as one of the grounds in your impeachment motion.
It is one of the companies associated with Rigathi Gachagua. And there is no problem with listing and saying, I am focusing on this one and I am not focusing on this one. I have academic, professional, and experience in conveyancing.
Academic, not practical.
Professional and practical experience in conveyancing.
How did you do conveyancing while working for Machakos County government?
I was not in private practice, but I am involved in many.
Yeah, name one transaction, for example.
Well, maybe I can't remember now.
Maybe what?
I cannot remember at the moment.
You can't remember a single transaction in your illustrious law career you've done?
As a result of non-responsiveness of all the bids, correct? As a result of non-responsiveness.
Yes, after Global Fund differed with the KEMSA Technical Evaluation Committee.
Did the Deputy President have anything to do with that?
I would not say.
Would you associate that to the Deputy President?
I am not competent to talk about that.
I am asking, do you associate that process with the Deputy President?
I cannot comment on that.
You will comment. Do you associate
because
that?
I don't know.
Here we are not in a hospital, we are in a court, seeking to save the life of a man you want to be impeached.
Well, of course, that was the proceedings Wednesday from morning all the way to the afternoon. The proceedings ended exactly at around over 11 p.m. yesterday night. And of course, the proceedings is still ongoing today. Today, it is the last day where the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, will know if he will still be the second in command or not. Of course, the senators have currently taken a short break, a lunch break to that effect, and they'll be back exactly at 2:30 p.m. And the person who will be taking to the stand is none other than Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, given that he doesn't have any other witnesses that he has brought before the House. He says he will be the sole witness that will be presented before the House. And of course, there will also be cross-examination that we've been witnessing since yesterday all the way to today. But the key question is what happened to the two other key witnesses that were supposed to come before the Senate. That is none other than Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja and the Secretary to the Cabinet, that is Mercy Wanjau. We've been able to see the former KEMSA CEO, that is Andrew Mulwa, as well as the Deputy CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, who clearly stated they received a summon yesterday afternoon, and of course he had to appear before the committee. That was the session that started from morning. That is what we're able to witness. In the afternoon, we had to see what will happen there. But of course, to just give us a context ahead of that, 2:30 when the senators will come back, is none other than Shadrack Wamboi. He is an advocate of the High Court, as well as Oscar Mondi, a political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. But let me start on this note, Shadrack. You have been witnessing what has been happening in the Senate from morning to evening yesterday. Let's start with yesterday before we get to today. What were your thoughts?
Well, thank you, Abdi, for the invitation, and a good afternoon to the viewers and the listeners at home and everywhere. Well, you know, the proceedings happening at the Senate are not just out of the ordinary. This is a way in which we have adopted, because we've borrowed so heavily from the common law practice. We've borrowed this style as a way of trial to get to the bottom of the issues as they are or as they were. So yesterday, what you saw and what you've been seeing up to today is that the National Assembly has been setting down its case. And through the process of cross-examination, the side of the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, has been trying to poke holes on the case using a tool called cross-examination. Because a tool called cross-examination is the only tool that we know in law that is used to separate the maize from the chaff, so that we get to understand, out of all the allegations that have been made, out of the 11 allegations that have been made, what really is the substance in it. Because we are not at the Senate to believe what His Honorable Mutuse was telling the members of the National Assembly when he first surrendered the motion on the first day of October 2024.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before I give you a chance, Oscar, I'm told we need to pay some bills. We need to take a short commercial break, and then we'll be back with your views. So don't go too far. Shadrach Wamboi, he is a lawyer, as well as Oscar Omondi, a political analyst, are here with me for the better part of this next few minutes ahead of that resumption at exactly 2:30 at the chambers of the Senate. Don't go too far.
Flavors of Africa.
Enjoy your favorite shows anywhere. Download DSTV Stream today.
Mzee, uliingia ndani?
Mimi niliingia ndani.
Ukaona nyumba?
Mimi aliona.
Ilikuwa inakaa namna gani?
Nyumba ilikuwa mizuri.
Ilikuwa mzuri? Kwani ulitoka nje?
Sasa si mimi nilikuwa naona na nilikuwa bado kumalizika. Mimi angeingia kama bado pako rent.
Ukipewa nyumba yako unatoka nje kwa nini mzee?
Kwa nini?
Unaona?
Uko na ushako?
Hiyo ni nini?
Aruti ushako mheshimiwa rais Ocha.
Mtu kama mimi niko na akili. Nilielezewa mpaka jinsi ya kupata nyumba affordable, nikashangaa mbona nilikuwa naenda kwa mikora kama hii.
Nyamaza, shut up, I'm talking.
Wewe. Wacha kutumia lugha zingine zile tunakuwa tunamwambia shut up.
Mimi ni architect. Architect ule wa kutengeneza nyumba mwichini.
Hata architect sio kutengeneza nyumba bwana, ni wa kuchora.
Okay.
Uliza maswali ambayo itakusaidia.
Mimi ni seremala. Kati ya hizi vitu watu watatu, nani alikula kai pesa?
Ni Ngwiri.
Basi.
Ni Ngwiri Enterprise.
Nisaidie na kipoko, nitakuchapa.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We are focusing on what is transpiring in the Senate. Of course, as I told you earlier on, we had one of the witnesses being asked questions there and being cross-examined. That was the former Chief Executive Officer of KEMSA, Andrew Mulwa, as well as an appearance after he was summoned. That is the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission on the allegations, of course, fronted by none other than Mwengi Mutuse, the Kibwezi lawmaker, in regards to a scandal that transpired within KEMSA in terms of net. But the investigations had clearly stated that no public funds were lost. Of course, the argument was the intimidation by, allegedly, of course, the Deputy President to the former KEMSA CEO that is yet, of course, to be substantiated before the Senate. Of course, my guests are still here with me. It is Shadrach Wamboi, an advocate of the High Court, as well as Oscar Omondi, political analyst. Now, let me go to you, Oscar. We have had the thoughts of Shadrach. What were your thoughts yesterday since you were listening and keenly following the proceedings?
Thank you very much, Hashim, for hosting us. And it's an interesting thing because through these proceedings, we are really trying to test our constitution, our new constitution, to the apex, in that when a public officer to the level of the presidency has not to leave office through just death or election, but an impeachment motion to the highest level. You know, in the previous parliament, the Senate managed to impeach 2 governors, and in this regime, in this August House, they've managed to impeach 1 governor. In
the Senate?
The Senate has managed to impeach 1.
Two governors.
No, there were 2 previously, Governor Sonko and...
Yes. This one has impeached, yes. The 4th Senate, you're correct. Yes. The 4th Senate has only impeached Kawera Mwangaza.
Now, the Senate today, by end of business today, they'll be able to either save or impeach the Deputy President. One thing, the merits of this case, from what I've been watching from yesterday, because I've discussed it here before, again with my colleague here, that impeachment cases are basically political cases. They are legal because they are written in the book of the Constitution, but it's a political process.
Okay.
I think the lawyers to the Deputy President didn't do him justice because they were poking holes on what matters, on legal issues, whether those companies were being that were mentioned by the Kibwezi Member of Parliament were actually accused of doing anything else, whether EACC had dealt with these cases that were brought before Parliament. That is not what is being tested. What is being tested is that anytime you lose favor with parliamentarians, with Parliament, you can be impeached.
Okay.
And this is what is playing on the... So if they had the lawyers who are focused on, political issues, could have dealt with accusation number 11, things to do with gross misconduct, misdemeanor of his office, and the issues to do with tribal or the shareholding ideas. That part they will have been able to test or try to save the DP. But dealing with the legal issues, I saw this guy called the lawyer Elisha Ongonya dealing so much, focusing and poking holes on legal issues, which I think were not really the bone of contention of this impeachment process.
Okay, since we have an advocate here, he will tell us what he thinks on that. But let me quickly take you to the August House. We're being joined by our very own Kamche Menza. Kamche, good afternoon and good to see you. Can you tell us, we have just heard the Speaker making a ruling that once they come back for the afternoon session, it will be the turn of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. But you remember that there was another key witness that the National Assembly had fronted, and that was the Secretary to the Cabinet, that is Mercy Wanjau. So can you confirm to us if Mercy Wanjau is within the precincts of Parliament?
Well, good afternoon to you back in studio, Abdiaziz, Hashim. As you said, we are here at the Parliament buildings where this afternoon, or rather this day, marks the second and final for the hearing and determining impeachment of the Rigathi.
Okay, sorry for that technical glitch. We're trying to link up with our very own Kamche Menza. As you can see behind her, she's about to give us an update on what is happening at the Parliament buildings. We had inquired in terms of the witnesses, given that the Speaker had ruled that in the afternoon session, it will be the turn of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. But let me continue with my guest here. Shadrach, we've just heard the argument that was posed by Oscar in terms of where the courts comes in, because many have argued this is a political process. So where do the courts come in, and where do legal representatives argue from?
Well, Mr. Omondi and I agree only to some certain extent. We agree that indeed this is a political process. But our agreement just ends there, because I propose or front the idea that despite this being a political process, it is in itself influenced by the legal principles that we have in law. So much so that you do not expect that, law in itself is logic. You do not expect to get some illogical reasoning from the Senate flowing from the charges that have been levied against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. So what is expected of us is that we want a collaboration, a corroboration of what has been alleged as the offenses that have been committed by the Deputy President vis-a-vis the evidence presented. And that is why you have seen, quite evidently, the honorable senators in the Senate, combing through documents to try and understand some of the allegations that have been made. So even while it is indeed a political process, even while we expected that, politics will carry the day, it is our ultimate expectation that because this process is in itself pegged or, flows from the Constitution, then it should be done in accordance with the Constitution. The powers and the responsibilities that we have given to the Senate are to be exercised in accordance with the Constitution. So that if you are alleging something, you must prove it. And so far, from what I have been able to see, the Honorable Mutuse yesterday, even with his other witnesses and the others that have taken flight, you are seeing someone who is trying to clutch at a straw. He's becoming a man of straw. So much so that he is not able to cogently respond to some of the questions that have been posed to him. I mean, you saw even after listing so many companies that he alleges were used or have been in use by the deputy president to pilferage or to steal money from the public, or to do that which he calls, washing money, this wash, money laundering. So you've not seen, or he has not been able to demonstrate a connection between his allegation and the companies that he has presented in the long list that he has presented before the Senate. So it is really, to me, what has been called, you had my senior and Molim, Elisha Ongoya, calling the falsehood. He is going to demonstrate the falsehood, the ridiculous, and what he calls, the other one, I think Don or Oscar here can even remind us.
Okay.
So you quite see, you see quite evidently that there is more than what meets the eye.
Okay.
And we expect that even while this process might ultimately go to court, because you've even seen allegations of bias being, mentioned against this honorable speaker. When this process ultimately goes to court, even while the court is keen on looking at the process, there has been a growth in the jurisprudence of this country to demonstrate that the court will also do what is called a merit review, looking at whether, even if the processes that might have been followed, it is important that the court looks at whether there has been substance, so that we do not want to look at the process as being one that has been created for the purpose of removing the deputy president. No, we have a future as a country. The deputy president, even while he is the second in that office, he is not going to be the deputy president for a very long time or in our lifetime. It is important that we create a good path that will be followed by the generations to come. So it is not ultimately about the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Oscar, as you respond,
Yes.
just tell us, what were the political undertones were you able to decipher during the first day, as you respond to Shadrach?
Yeah, what I was able to decipher, and even Mutuse came back today, and they indicated that what I was trying to do, which a lot of people probably were not understanding, because this is a political process. What he was trying to do, he was trying to put doubt, because this is not a legal, see, some of the outspoken senators like Senator Boni Alwale, what is his expertise? He's a medical doctor. You see, these senators are not legal officers of court. If you want to deal with proper evidence beyond eligible doubt, criminality, it has to be tested in a trial court, in courts, not in the assembly. At the assembly, the political undertones, like the shareholding thing that DP kept on saying, this one was wrong, and this one was like dividing the country into different regions. And he was the deputy president who was responsible to be like the symbol of unity of this country. That is the reason why he's being impeached. Secondly, the other reason why, the other big reason why I think the DP has a problem is what happened after the Gen Z riots, when he went to Mombasa to have a press conference and condemn the national intelligence officer after the president had already given a speech to guide the country where the country is heading to. So he went to guide the country differently. But when did the DP completely lose it? The DP completely lost it at Githurai, when this Kate Waruguru said, Ruto must go. And the deputy president was there, clapping. You get me right? What do you think where Ruto was imagining? He's sitting in State House. This is my deputy. In a roundabout at Githurai, somebody is telling the crowd, cheering the crowd that Ruto must go. And the deputy is there, part and parcel of it, and he's like, yes, he must go. Remember, if he goes, who is the next on command?
We cannot ascertain if he agreed with.
We cannot ascertain, yes, if he agreed. But I think on that platform, that is where the political thing went overboard. And I think the president and the people in UDA and the governing systems lost control of the DP, and they were like, okay, now we have to go for an impeachment. Yeah, we've had enough is enough. Let us next week call him down and let's go for an impeachment. Because if somebody who has been close to the DP now, in the name of Ketu Waruguru, talking about Ruto must go at that roundabout, and the DP didn't condemn in his speech. You get me right? And he's the second in command. Now,
you are people and you're holding rallies. And in these rallies, your supporters are talking about your boss has to go, not you.
Okay.
You know, your boss will feel like, okay, I can't take this one anymore. And I think, for me, the political angle of this and what is being on trial here is politics. And why do we have impeachments? Impeachments, you will be impeached if you lose favor with legislators. That is the politics. So other things that will be dealt with in court, like what my landlord friend is talking about. Go to court and deal with them. But at this level today in the evening, he will be impeached. He will go home. I think so.
So you already know that he'll be impeached.
I think he doesn't have the numbers because see, this case is not one.
Senate, so
Just wait, Hashim. This case is not one and determined based on evidence. Cases are won and determined based on evidence in court. At the Senate, it is one based on numbers.
Okay.
In fact, if you look at that Senate, there are no numbers there, but come afternoon, you will see senators trooping in because it is the voting time. And then they will come and vote. UDA has 32.
Okay. I'll give you a chance.
UDA has 32, yes. ODM has 20.
Okay.
If they get, how many do they need to impeach? 45. I think he's home and dry.
Okay. I'll give you a chance, Shadrach, to respond to those sentiments made by Oscar. But let's get reactions from Kenyans as well, who have talked about the current proceedings that are happening at the Senate. Let's get to hear some of their reactions, and then we continue with our conversation here in studio.
House is set to vote on the impeachment motion tabled against the Deputy President today. Kenyans have expressed mixed reactions on the motion. In Kiambu County, locals have called on the Senate to thoroughly probe the allegations of the impeachment motion and remain impartial while handling the case facing the Deputy President.
Jana ilikuwa thibitisho kwamba wabunge walifanya kazi ambayo kwa mzuri na kuoneshana ya kwamba hawa walikuwa wametumiwa. Na kwa hivyo tuna uhakika ya kwamba Seneti itafanya haki kwa naibu rais.
They have argued that the DP should be allowed to complete his 5-year term for the sake of the country's political stability.
Inaonekana ya kwamba yale mashtaka yaliyoletwa na mbunge Mtuse yalikuwa mashtaka ya kuandikiwa. Ni uongo mtupu, na kama bunge la Seneti linataka kujitenga na ule mchezo wa bunge la kitaifa, inafaa watupilie huu mswada mbali, sababu hatuwezi badilisha bunge letu kuwa bunge la mchezo.
Tunamurika bunge la Senate ifanye haki kwa Wakenya na ifanye haki kwa naibu wa rais, ile malalamisho yameletwa katika bunge la Senate waondoe, kwa sababu ni kuchukua mambo ya kikatiba kwa msaha.
Meanwhile, residents of Mpeketoni in Lamu County have expressed a dissent on the proposed removal of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua from office.
Tunasema hivi kama watu wa Lamu, Gachagua asiende. Ati Gachagua asifanya nini? Asiende. Gachagua asifanya nini? Asiende. Awe kiongozi wetu. Vile amekuwa akituongoza, aendelee kutuongoza mpaka dakika ya mwisho.
The community led by local leader Emmanuel Onyeke say the motion is ill-timed, terming it as a strategic distraction intended to divert Kenyans' attention from matters relating to the governance of the country.
Nataka kuongea na Senate kwa sababu hii swali liko katika Senate, na mimi naomba wasisikize haya mambo ya kusingiziwa, waweze kusikiza Gachagua na vile atakavyojitetea, kwa sababu tuliona National Assembly hakusikizwa.
John Kahiro for Lunchtime News.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Of course, we'll continue piling up the stories that we have prepared for you in relation to whatever is happening in the Senate. My guests are still here with me. Now, Shadrach, you wanted to respond to what Oscar was saying earlier on, but my question to you is, given that we have clearly said and stated that this is a political process, can mere allegation remove somebody from an office?
Well, Abdi, I think in the name of politics, my very good friend here, Oscar Omondi, is trivializing very serious issues. We have someone whose life is hanging on the balance. Literally speaking, you know, this is his political life. This is someone who has given himself in the past as a DO, he given himself in the past, you know, as a member of parliament, and now has ascended all the way up to the office, the honorable office of the Deputy President. So really, it could not have been the intention of the framers of the Constitution that given the opportunity as we have given the senators, that they will trivialize a very serious process that will lead to the removal of the Deputy President for the rest of his life from public office, all in the name of playing politics. I think the very expectations we have, even while we expect politics to be at play, is that these men and women sitting in that honorable chamber in Senate are going to be influenced not only by the politics of the day, but by the law and the evidence that is presented before them. That they are going to be influenced by the arguments made by councils and the submissions that have been made by the mover of the motion, the Honorable Mwingi Mutuse, and the witnesses that have been presented, including taking into consideration that indeed Mwingi Mutuse had presented a number of witnesses, including Mercy Wanjau, the secretary to the cabinet, and then the governor, the Honorable Sakaja, who have already taken flight. So if you have witnesses...
That's not true. I don't think they've taken flight.
No, they have taken flight.
What do you mean?
This is the reality. They are not available. They have not come to substantiate some of the allegations. Remember, one of the allegations was supposed to be given support by the governor of Nairobi. But I think he's been well advised about the political ramifications that might come.
Which you cannot confirm.
Yes, I'm just, we just, but the facts are speaking for themselves. There are principles in law like recipsa loquita. Like the facts will speak for itself. So really, if you look,
we don't understand.
Abdi, if you look at the situation, you see if it is duck, it is behaving like a duck, walking like a duck. It must be a duck. So let me just finish. So the expectations that we have of the honorable senators is they will look into the evidence that has been presented, taking into consideration the kind of responses that we have seen. Because what we know historically to be a tool that has been used to get to the root or to the bottom of matters. Because people are allowed to say everything. You are allowed to say anything. You can say anything. And we saw Honorable Mutuse saying everything and anything in the chamber. And we have even seen them trying to say anything and everything at the Senate, including, trying to allege that now the deputy president must be found guilty of the allegations that have been made purposely because he made the concession that he received some gifts in form of cows from our brothers and sisters living in the Rift Valley. But you see, that is not one of the reasons, that is not one of the allegations that has been presented. So we just need to stay on the rail because we have a problem. What we saw at the National Assembly is somehow what we are also seeing in play at the Senate. But ultimately we are hoping, because this is a body that is exercising quasi-judicial authority. Quasi-judicial authority means that this is a body that has a responsibility of reasoning, taking facts as they are, synthesizing the facts and the law, and then arriving at a conclusion that is capable of persuading you and I to also see through their lens and arrive at the same conclusion as they have arrived at. So really, it is not just as easy as Mr. Omondi here is trying to play it out. These people must come, they must substantiate their decision.
These are 14 charges. These are 11 charges. Even if one is substantiated, that is gross misconduct. You don't need to have that. All the 11 charges leveled against the DP are all found it to be true. Secondly, actually there's a time there was a guy called MP for Butere, Martin Shikuku, one day said in Parliament during Moi's regime that Kanu is dead.
Pre-2010.
Yes, pre-2010.
Thank you.
That's Martin Shikuku.
Yes.
Say that Kanu is dead. And then the speaker was so much upset the way you have, the feeling that you had now. Then he was told to substantiate. Then he said, you don't have to substantiate the obvious. For instance, issue to do with the DP interfering with the running of the county government of Nairobi. You see, why do you have to substantiate that one? This is a political, he was there and he was on TV and everybody was watching where we play politics. He was addressing Markiti, the central business district, in vernacular. You get me right? Some of these things, you really don't have to substantiate them if you're not in court. I'm telling you what will happen.
Yes.
For example, today the DP gets impeached. For example, if he gets impeached today. Tomorrow we have a special sitting. Parliament doesn't sit on Friday, but tomorrow Parliament will be sitting. I'm sure what might happen there, the president might send a nominee's name to Parliament.
Okay. So when the DP goes to court on Monday, we have a holiday. On Sunday, we have Mashujaa Day being celebrated in Kwale. And the president wants to celebrate that Mashujaa Day with a new DP.
We cannot confirm.
We cannot confirm that.
Yes.
Yes. So what I'm saying, that when the DP goes to court on Monday, he will be going as who? As the former deputy president, because by that time on Monday, we will have a new deputy president, or we will have a nominee being debated in parliament. So it shall have been overtaken by events, because courts don't work on Sunday, and they won't work today at night after he will be impeached. So the best thing, instead of offering that evidence today, now in the afternoon, the best thing you should do, take a pen and paper, write his resignation and leave.
Okay, we will ask that legitimate question, because can somebody resign already with the proceedings ongoing? We have a lawyer here. He will tell us. But let's take a look at other stories making headline. And of course, we'll come back with that conversation. You can see my guest will still be here with me. That is Shadrach Omboi. He is a lawyer, as well as Oscar Mondi, a political analyst. Now, to other stories making headlines, we want to start in the Nyanza region, where Nyanza Regional Commissioner, that is Florence Moroa, has called on residents near the disputed border between the Tamu sub-county in Migori and Transmara sub-county in Narok County to cease a generalization or labeling entire communities in the ongoing disputes. Now, her plea shared during a security baraza emphasized the need to address individual actions rather than blame an entire community. Moreover, further highlighted the importance of formalizing local conflict resolution agreements, asking relevant authorities to submit these documents for assessment, potentially operationalizing them to improve relations.
Wale ambao wanaiba ng'ombe ni Wakuria, waitwe wakora ama tuwaite waizi, lakini tusiwaite wa Kipsigis. Kila mwana Kenya ako na haki ya kuwa na shamba mahali popote. Hakuna mipaka ati wewe huwezi enda kulima pande hii, mwingine hawezi kwenda kulima pande hii. Hakuna hiyo sheria.
Elsewhere, the government has kicked off the process of tarmacking Garissa-Liboi Road. The Kenya National Highway Authority, KENHA, held a stakeholders engagement at Garissa on the environmental and social impact assessment of the road. Now, leaders and residents from the county have for years been calling on the national government to prioritize its construction to improve security, mobility, and contribute to the urbanization of the region.
Bitumen standards, it will improve not only the security, but also it will enhance the trade between Kenya and Somalia, because the road is a key road, a critical link that links Garissa to Kismayu, or rather the town in Somalia called Kismayu.
Tulikuwa tunaisubiri hii barabara miaka 60 iliyopita. Itakuwa imeconnect kabisa. Hapa zile shida tunapata ni mambo ya IED na nini. Lakini hiyo barabara itafungua trade, itafungua cross border business, itafungua mambo mingi sana.
Tunahimiza kwamba kila mtu aweze kushiriki kikamilifu kuhakikisha kwamba mradi huu haukui na changamoto yoyote, kwa sababu tayari picha zishachukuliwa kutumia njia za kiteknolojia.
Now, persons living with disability in Isiolo County have been urged to continue registering with the National Council for Persons with Disabilities as the council digitizes the registration process. This initiative aims to promote a right-based approach, ensuring PWDs can secure education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. Godana Boru, a council officer, highlighted that the transition from charity models to right-based framework will empower PWDs and foster their growth as productive members of the society.
We want to clear from the minds of the persons with disabilities that the charity models and the era of goals were long gone. You see why we have so many of them, or some of them on the street, is because they still have their mind confined to the charity model of disability. And this is what we are trying to demystify.
Advantages of registration for the children. One, there's education assistance, there's scholarship for the secondary students, for children with disabilities, or learners with disabilities. We have assistive devices for those even who are accessing the schools and not able even to have assistive devices. We have the crutches, we have the wheelchairs and many others, depending on the category a person is having the disabilities.
And now, welcome to the world of business. Now, small and medium enterprise operators should embrace training and adopt innovative solutions to empower them make long-term strategic decisions focused on reducing cost and improving operational efficiencies. Business leaders at the ongoing Big Baraza conference that has brought together SMEs drawn from different sectors say the high cost of borrowing has limited the growth potentially of small businesses, and there is need for entrepreneurs to seek innovative financial solutions outside the traditional banking.
Sandbox began, where we were like, if somebody in Europe can build a business that comes to Kenya and succeeds, if I do the same things that person in Europe does here or back in Europe, I should succeed just as they would. And so investing in learning a little bit more about entrepreneurship education would help. But also I think it takes banks and other institutions also changing their mentalities.
Growing businesses, it's just now, like you're saying, getting through from being an idea to proving a concept to, actually becoming a solid business and becoming a brand that people recognize and support. I think that's the journey that we've got to support, and, ourselves and others included, we've got to keep working towards.
The system is such that you can't produce anything cheaper than the import. And so the government has to step in and protect the consumer, but also to protect the producer.
Now, capital market players have been urged to embrace innovation to remain relevant in the face of evolving global trends. Capital Markets Authority Director for Market Operation, that is Daniel Warutere, says this approach is critical in deepening liquidity and promoting the maturity of the local market, reducing reliance on foreign investors. This was noted during the relaunch of a Capital A Investment Bank, formerly known as Securities Africa Kenya Limited. This follows its recent upgrade from a licensed stockbroker to an investment bank, sanctioned by the Capital Markets Authority. The bank says its renewed focus will be on innovation and client-centric services aimed at driving growth in the Kenyan financial market.
To see how we can collaborate to actually deepen our local domestic market. I think it has been shown that markets around the world, stock markets around the world in particular, or securities markets around the world that are heavily reliant on foreign flows are extremely volatile. Sometimes they go flat for years.
This includes continuously reviewing the regulatory frameworks that we have, especially to encourage innovation, supporting introduction of new products, and most importantly, ensure investor protection. I think that's a metric that as a regulator, we have to be judged on that. We acknowledge that there's a lot more that we can do within our markets, and we keep encouraging our intermediaries to be innovative.
It is our desire to have a new look and feel, with offering the same quality, even better. This has led us to discover our new purpose in this capital market space. Our philosophy going forward is to invest in you and not for you.
Elsewhere, business communities have been urged to take advantage of expos to expand their client base, as it gives them an opportunity to interact directly with consumers and borrow ideas. Speaking after visiting exhibitors in Westlands, Kikuyu and Limuru, the convener of Impact Business Expo, Susan Waithera, noted that more small and medium enterprises are heeding the call. Now, she have expressed concerns that Kenyan entrepreneurs are struggling to meet the desired market due to competition.
Impact Business Expo. It will be in collaboration with BNI Kenya. It's happening this Saturday at the Sarit Expo Center, Loita Hall. I will visit the different stands. I'll be able to talk to people, and not just on that day, because we will now be as a family. So I'll be connected to all those exhibitors, and they'll be able to tell me, how have they made it in business.
In other news, leveraging on technological advancements in farming as well as curbing post-harvest losses are some of the key measures experts say will enhance food security in the country if adapted. The experts who spoke ahead of the World Food Day set to be held on October 18th in Nandi County urged the government to devise ways of tackling climate change to increase food production.
Preparations are in top gear for this year's World Food Day to be celebrated on Friday, October 18th at Kaimosi Agriculture Training Center in Nandi County. The theme of the feat, Right to Food for a Better Life and a Better Future, coming in the wake of revelations by Food and Agriculture Organization FAO that 733 million people globally face acute malnutrition. According to food security expert Julius Nyabicha, comprehensive strategies, including leveraging on technology and innovations, are needed to foster food security and improve nutrition in the country.
The most important that we do is to bring farmers together for purposes of getting the technologies, important current technologies, especially technologies that mitigate against the effects of climate change. We need to look at how minimum we can disturb our soils, what we call minimum tillage or conservation agriculture.
Despite government effort through holistic food safety programs, experts are calling for integration of processed foods with traditional foods to enhance nutrition stability.
We promote the growing of African indigenous vegetables that is rich in very important components like iron, zinc, calcium, and it boosts immunity also among the vulnerable population.
Additionally, some organizations are reporting strides in raising awareness to farmers on the importance of diversification of their crops and adapting climate-smart agriculture to boost productivity.
In matters of food system, we really know as a country we are really moving from our indigenous crops and we are moving to the exotic ones, which they are less nutritious, and then they are not able to adapt because they are foreign materials to this country. So what we usually advise our farmers is to do diversification of their crops.
As part of reaching out to farmers with training on latest innovations in the agriculture and market reach, farmers in 32 counties have already been trained under an initiative led by Cereal Growers Association of Kenya.
Mimi niko na wakulima over 300 ambao mimi mwenyewe nina serve na wanapata huduma kutoka kwangu.
Joseph Ohungu.
Kenya needs to fast-track the removal of the moratorium on power purchase agreements if the country is to achieve a 100% transition to clean energy by the year 2030. Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority Director General, that is Daniel Kipto, says Kenya's reserve electricity margin is thinning with demand rising steadily.
Electricity demand has been steadily rising according to the latest Energy and Petroleum Statistics report for the period ending June 30th. The peak demand is 2,177 megawatts against an installed capacity of 3,778 megawatts. The EPRO Director General highlighted the shrinking reserve margin, emphasizing the need to onboard new power agreements to meet the growing demand.
Having a very thin reserve margin, and this has been an account of the moratorium that has been put in place and was put in place back in 2018. From where we sit as a regulator, we see this to be a big risk, and we've been able to engage with our policymakers and to be able to raise this issue so that then we can be able to sign up new generation capacity if we were to meet our target of being 100% renewable by 2030.
Geothermal accounts for 41.7% of the energy mix, followed by hydro, wind and electricity inputs. Thermal generation has declined to 8.2% of the total energy generated.
Renewable energy targets I think Kenya first has a very good story. Not very many economies can boast of renewable energy above 70% of their mix. And this good Kenyan story is one we need to continue.
He says EPRA is yet to receive the proposed tariff that Adani Energy Solutions will charge households and businesses for the new high-voltage power transmission lines, since negotiations are currently at the provisional stage.
This is a PPP process. The contracting entity in this case is KETRACO. The approving entity is the PPP committee in line with the Public-Private Partnerships Act. We as the regulator come in to ensure that whatever the parties negotiate commercially are within reason, because we as a regulator are here to balance the interests of investors and consumers as well. We have seen a provisional application to us from KETRACO.
Total system losses are average 23.4%. Wairi Mujenga for Lunchtime News.
Now, finally, welcome to the world of sports. Now, Nigeria kicked off their campaign in the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup with a resounding 4-1 defeat of New Zealand in Group A as Ecuador beat Dominican Republic 2-0. Spain started their title defense with a 3-1 defeat of the United States as Korea Republic drew 1-1 with Colombia. All eyes will be on Kenya's junior starlets as they face England tomorrow in their first ever appearance in a FIFA World Cup competition as Brazil plays Zambia in another match.
Effiong, Marigoki, headed towards goal, loops over the goalkeeper, and it is a fourth goal for Nigeria. This time it's low. Saxon scores
to bring it down, and a really great pass by Sarah Jordi to open up the USA. So close to paying for it. That ball to the outside for Ascanio. Into the box she goes, and on she goes. Lopez, the goalkeeper, made a really good save there. The second one is drilled. Has the ball at her feet this time. Tries one herself off the top of the crossbar. It's still there, and it's turned in.
And of course, we wish our very own Kenya's junior starlets all the best, given that this will be their first ever appearance in a FIFA World Cup. We wish you all the best, ladies. Now, Germans Bayern Munich maintained their winning streak in the UEFA Women's Champions League after beating Juventus 2-0 at their backyard at the Stadio Vittorio Pozzo. Now, Bayern now tops Group C with 6 points, 3 ahead. Those were the stories we had prepared for you this afternoon. Now back to our focus, because in the next 17 minutes or so, we do expect the Senate to resume its afternoon session, and Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is expected to take to the stands. And of course, as you can guess it, there will be cross-examination from both sides. But before we get to that, we want to look at how the session was this morning, given that we saw the former Chief Executive Officer of KEMSA, that is Andrew Mulwa, as well as the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission appearing before these senators. Let's get to see what transpired in the morning session.
Mr. Speaker, we are lucky that the EACC is here with us, and there are serious allegations that have been raised that require investigations. Could the CEO, the Deputy, confirm if indeed there are investigations taking place on your own motion on the following issues? One, on the activities of this intricate web of companies by the Deputy President.
Are there any active investigations by EACC against the person of Rigathi Gachagua or against the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya?
Mine is to the Council for the National Assembly. You have presented before this House 2 witnesses, Mr. Abdi and the previous one, Dr. Mulwa. Dr. Mulwa before this House stated that there was no loss in regards to this procurement process. Mr. Abdi's report indicates very clearly that there was no loss of public funds. Would you tell this House, between your 2 witnesses, who is telling the truth, who is not telling us the truth?
The committee observed that following the termination of the tender, while there was no apparent loss of public funds,
just put a full stop there. Pause. What has the committee observed?
You don't want me to finish the sentence?
Yes, I'll lead you to that other part.
Okay.
What has the committee observed?
No public funds lost.
No public funds lost. In your investigations, separate investigations that you conducted, did you arrive at the same conclusion? Did you or did you not?
There was no public funds lost.
There was no public funds lost.
Terminated.
Thank you.
I was told yesterday that Vipingo Ridge, the 2 sons of His Excellency the Deputy President, are mere directors, and that the shares are owned by the estate of the late Derito Gachagua. But then you ask yourself, all of you here, you have children, why would my brother's children own my estate and not my children?
The Deputy President is aware that county governments are distinct. Our answer is simple. Governments at national and county levels are distinct and interdependent. So the constitutional architecture is not to create pigeonholes, it's to create cooperative and interdependent governments.
Honorable Seki, unless you apologize, I'm going to throw you out of the chamber. You cannot say the chair is biased. If you've noticed, we've been going on lots. One lot, the witness answers, then I go for another lot. Honorable Seki, unless you apologize, I rule you out of order, and I'm going to throw you out.
Well, that was the morning session. It got a little bit fiery. As you can see at the end, it was the senator of Kajiado who was told to rescind some of the words he had clearly stated within the chambers, or he will be ejected. At the end of the day, he apologized and he was allowed to stay in the chambers. Now, Shadrach, I wanted to come back to you because Oscar raised a very critical question, and many Kenyans, I'm sure they want to ask this question. Can the Deputy President resign at this stage?
Well, it is not out of the, his options. He still can resign.
Despite the process?
Yes, despite the process. The only time where his resignation will not have any effect in law is after the decision has been made. So pending the process, as we still deliberate as to whether he has committed some of these allegations, the law at Article 148 of the Constitution presupposes that when if a deputy president wants to resign, he just needs to write to the president and then indicate the time when he is resigning. If he does not indicate the time when he is resigning, then it shall be assumed in law that he shall have resigned the following day or on a day, or let's say if now we are past the afternoon, so it shall be deemed to he will be deemed to have resigned tomorrow at noon, if he has not given an indication as to the time that he is resigning. But he said, if he writes a letter right now and says that I am resigning immediately, after it has been received by the president, then the processes or the proceedings before the Senate become what we call in law superfluous. They become unnecessary. They become of otious, of no use at all. So that is.
What if there is a delay in terms of when the deputy president resigns now, and even before, because I'm sure that resignation has to go to the commander-in-chief. Let's say in that period that that document is delayed, and the senators have already decided.
The question really, and we had these debates when we were dealing with some of these election disputes. Remember the nomination period, when people were expected to have resigned at least 6 months before the elections, and we had disputes as to at what time did this person resign. we expect government offices to be working as from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that we expect that the office of the president, whether he is in the country, outside the country, or wherever he is, that office is still active. To the extent that they will be available to receive the letter, if at all, you underline, if at all the deputy president, writes to cause his resignation or to demonstrate his resignation from office, then it is still possible.
Okay, Oscar, as you respond, just tell us, given that the deputy president now will be taking to the stands, what are we likely to expect?
He will be repeating whatever he said at the National Assembly. And you see, I told you this is a political process, and that is why new evidence is even brought while the case is going on. For example, what he's talking about, the gift that he talked about, that he received a gift. This was, if it was a proper judicial process, you can't introduce new evidence as the case is going on. But it's a political process. Even whatever the DP will say here, he will stand accused of whatever he's going to put in place as witness. By the time the senators will debate, they will be debating his speech. They will be debating his speech vis-a-vis whatever has been said. And he will be impeached on those grounds. That's what I'm telling you, it is a political process. Now, issue of resigning, of what my colleague is talking about, I think it is the fact that he can write a letter now. I said he can write a letter now, but I think if he does such a thing, the Senate will proceed and finish, because he had already participated in that process of being there, participating, writing submissions and affidavits and signing them. So in a nutshell, he has participated in the impeachment process. I think as we speak now, it is good as done. I think tomorrow morning, the National Assembly will be sitting down to discuss a new nominee of that position. I think this one, politically, it is done. They're just finishing it up. For example, if he resigns, that letter has to be received by the president. There must be a gazette notice. And I think the gazette notice for this process of impeachment, it must be somewhere. Somebody else has a gazette notice who just needs to put it on the table.
We cannot confirm that. Given that we're running out of time, let me start with you, Shadrach.
Yes.
As you continue to rebuttal with Oscar here, give us your final remarks into the proceedings that we do expect in the afternoon.
Yes. Now, especially regarding what Oscar Omondi has contributed on the continuance of the process, if in the event that the Deputy President files his resignation letter. We learn a lot from history. You remember at a time when my Lord Justice Philip Tunoi was being investigated for having received, monies for corruption in the case between the former Governor Kidero and the former Kiambu Governor Waititu, Ferdinand Waititu. I don't know if you remember that time. And during the proceedings that were happening, when a tribunal had been formed to investigate whether he should be removed from office or not, it turned out that a decision was made by the Supreme Court that people were supposed to retire at the age of 70. And he was about 70-something, 72 years old. And he was claiming that because of the previous constitution, he ought to continue serving as a judge of the Supreme Court until when he's 74 years old. And when there was that letter introduced by my senior counsel Ngatia, Fred Ngatia, and it was indicated that he is not even a judge, so he does not qualify to even be subjected to these proceedings. Those proceedings were made superfluous. They were of no effect. Now, turning to my last remarks, is this. I am hoping against hope that the senators are going to rise above the politics of the day, that they are going to remind themselves that, you see, the person that they are removing from office, or they have been invited to remove from office by way of impeachment, was once a very powerful individual. He was enjoying the trappings of power. But now, it so happens that the same system that was clapping for him when he was saying shareholder, has now turned against him. So one day, if they set a very bad precedent, one day this system that they are protecting, this system that they are celebrating, will one day turn against them. And because they will have set the threshold so low, that low threshold that they will have set will be used against them to remove them from office. So
yeah.
we just need to be careful. It is not about Rigathi Gachagua, it is about the protection of the Constitution and the values and principles that we have given to ourselves.
No, very fast, no day will politicians rise above political situations. These are politicians, they will not rise above anything. They are politicians, they are doing politics, and that's what they are paid for. So what are they going to do at the Senate? They're going to play politics. They are not in the House. They are drinking or doing something elsewhere. They will come to vote. It's done, bro. Gone.
Okay, we cannot ascertain that it is done because we do have another session that will continue even to the nights. We do anticipate that particular session after the Deputy President has taken to the stand. Once he concludes, the members will have a chance to debate whatever they have heard for the last 48 hours or so before they render now their verdict. And of course, keep it here at KBC at exactly 2:30 p.m. We'll be taking you live to the Senate chambers. It will be the Deputy President who will be taking to the stands. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. Good afternoon for now.